What I quite like about the opening trailer of the second episode of this story is that it continues into the established story instead of starting the episode with the title sequence straight after the "previously on Doctor Who" thing. I know it doesn't have the big speech at the beginning, but you know what I mean. I know this happens in other episodes too, but I thought I'd point it out in this review. The Doctor wins over the aliens because genetics and the fact that there's 8 more episodes after this one in this series. I thought that thing around their neck allowed compression and the ability to fit inside human skin suits though, not something that connected the 4 of them together. I mean, Harriet and Rose could have just legged it when the office boy becomes the new replacement curtains, and it wouldn't have been too hard for Jackie to just crawl under the policeman's legs either. Why did this annoying electricity thing need to even be a thing in the first place? So plot convenience allows our characters to escape, and then we see the rather poor and unnecessary CGI animations of the aliens. Don't get me wrong, I think the big green monster costume thing looks absolutely awesome, but why did they need to take it to another level by animating them with a computer? I would have preferred to just see them dawdling along in that gigantic suit as opposed to this rubbish. The only advantage this has is that they look very gorilla-like when they run, indicating a primordial instinct humans may have hidden beneath them within the subconscious wanting to break free. Meanwhile, the Doctor has a rather comedic moment where he gets accused of killing the alien experts, where he gets backed into the lift smiling away because this is all still very exciting for him. When he arrives up top, I didn't know this until watching it just now, but the Slitheen have tongues! It's only briefly seen in this shot here if you look really closely, but there you go. Learn something new every day. They use the same shot as the elevator they had in the first episode of the revival, only with blue lights flashing around this time, and we are introduced to this whole hunting sport obsession the Slitheen have. To me, this seems like nothing more than an excuse to waste time and save on budget, preventing a Slitheen from throwing a sofa over in range or something like that. I do have to commend the set design's efforts on the whole Downing Street thing though. It seems very upper class, and despite I've never been in Downing Street myself, this is the kind of place I would imagine, even if it is a bit basic. Our characters get led into a dead end again, where the Doctor gives out a rather hilariously detailed history of the owners of Downing Street. I'm unsure of the historical accuracy of what he's saying, but he's dawdling the aliens in a really funny way, so I don't really see any point in criticising it. You'd think, however, the Slitheen wouldn't bother allowing him to talk, considering they're on a pretty tight schedule to blow up the Earth as quickly as possible, and would just cut them all to shreds in an instant. We then go back to the problem of 8 episodes left of the series, and plot convenience unfortunately has to have its way like a smug child who has just outsmarted an adult. Back on the set of EastEnders, nobody seems to hear Jackie and Mickey sneaking out of his flat, where she goes from naturalistic performance to melodramatic in seconds.
I thought I was gonna die. And he's still out there, Mickey. That policeman. That thing.
We keep bumping into members of the United Kingdom being completely obedient to those in power without question. For example, none of the reporters try to investigate anything and simply just describe everything that's happening in front of them, and the policeman who just drives away despite this creepy bloke's obsession with Jackie Tyler. I find this quite interesting considering it's pretty representative of how reliant the general public can be on those in power, and that as soon as their little bubble of everyday routine life is broken, they go out and riot before quickly just trying to adapt again. As Harriet Jones said in the previous episode,
"Nevertheless, ordinary life keeps ticking away."
There's this really great shot of Mickey's wall describing how much of a paranoid alien super nerd Mickey has become past the exposition we're given. Speaking of which, I only found this out the other day. Mickey's flat and Rose's house are all part of the same set. Talk about budget control. I never would have guessed. When Mickey starts hacking into the unit website, we have this really good section about Rose's safety that I think shines in terms of pacing and dialogue. I know it's rather brief and concludes later, but the music works really well to this segment's advantage, as it goes from fast-paced, exciting action to a slower, prolonged and intense segment when the sound of the hi-hats disappear, allowing Eccleston's silence to hit a sensitive nerve in the audience when we see him looking rather struck. It really outlines the difference between the security of home and the thrill ride of adventure out there in space and time. The intensity is then brought back up again as the pervy policeman comes knocking at the door again.
Hello. So, what's all this then?
Fortunately, Jackie goes about killing the Slitheen with a pot of vinegar with the help of the Doctor's vast knowledge of planets and their inhabitants. I do like how the Doctor used his head as an early method of deduction, as it shows his intelligence and it's edited really well here. The science here is probably quite accurate too. I know we don't know absolutely everything about Raxacoricophalopatorians, and I am no chemist either, but I was always under the impression that it took several minutes or possibly hours for calcium to be worn away by acid, which is strange considering the instantaneous explosion of the Slitheen itself. On the other hand, the Doctor did say they are made of calcium phosphate, the other key element being phosphorus. I can only assume therefore that the moment the calcium began to react with the vinegar, the phosphorus that was left began to react with the air and combusted, just like we see here. This is really great considering the majority of the scientific details of this alien were thought out, even if it is very brief within the Doctor's delivery of his dialogue. The debris from the explosion looks really gross, and we have this really fantastic speech delivered by our slimy bastard politician Joseph Green, which relates to the theme of terrorism. If we rewind back to that semi-9/11 reference we saw in the previous episode, and then forward wind back to his speech justifying the violence of an invisible threat, we can now see how this same sort of story unfolded back in 2001 with the Twin Towers and the invasion of the Middle East. I think Davies did a fantastic job at embedding this kind of story into the episode, especially with the Doctor's outright skepticism and denial of the threats Green is describing.
He's making it up. There's no weapons up there, there's no threat. He just invented it.
Do you think they'll believe him?
Well, he did last time.
That's why the Slitheen went for spectacle. They want the whole world panicking, because you lot, you get scared, you lash out.
They release the defence codes.
And the Slitheen go nuclear.
Precisely. Margaret Blaine then comes along and explains that there's a recession out there for fuel, adding even more layers to the story that wouldn't be explained until the Sarah Jane Adventures episode titled The Gift. This episode would go on to explain that the Slitheen took over their planet before, so they know what they're doing when it comes to conquering governments. The tying of the story is really great in my opinion. It shows the desperation of a species as it tries to get by during a time where little wealth is available. This can also be seen when the three siblings climb up to the Prime Minister's office and get vastly overexcited about the fact that the telephone is red. We then return to that lovely "is my daughter safe" argument we had earlier, where the Doctor comes up with a response, even if it is an unsatisfactory one for Jackie. The music's really great, their performances are fantastic, pure drama at its finest. For the BBC, anyway.
Except it's not your decision, Doctor. It's mine.
Who the hell are you?
Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North. The only elected representative in this room, chosen by the people, for the people, and on behalf of the people, I command you.
Do it.
The politicians in the office show their true colours now they know they've won by stripping down to the horrible, ugly creatures they are. Wait, hang on a minute. Why the fuck is there a guitar in the Prime Minister's office? The absurdity doesn't stop there though. Mickey then conveniently hacks into the Navy, and the missile he selects is conveniently locked onto Downing Street, which conveniently has a big red fire button that can be accessed through their fucking website. Right, you know what? The human race is fucked if somebody with nothing but an obsession with UFOs can just hack into the Navy and blow up the Parliament from his fucking bedroom. Wait for it.
I'm not going to die, we're going to ride this one out. It's like what they say about earthquakes. You can survive them by standing under a door frame.
Right, who the fuck said that?
We no longer recommend that people get in the door frame during an earthquake. It really doesn't provide that much protection from falling objects such as ceiling tiles or lights or other things. And also, it's quite likely you're not going to be able to stand during the earthquake to begin with.
Conveniently. We then have a rather funny moment where the sergeant bursts into the room filled with aliens, who quickly apologises and leaves. I think this is a bit of a joke on the fingers in the ears nothing will hurt me mentality they have upon hearing the fire alarm, and the sergeant's reaction is absolutely classic. The humour continues as they try to suit up again when they suddenly realise the phone probably won't be ringing anytime soon. The place blows up in a spectacular way and peace is restored. The Doctor is invited over for dinner at Jackie's that I think outlines an advantage these episodes have over the newer ones. Let's compare this phone call to when Matt Smith is dragged to Clara's for Christmas lunch in the episode The Time of the Doctor. Instead of being absolutely whipped by his companion, the Doctor knows that he and Rose have plenty of things to be getting on with outside of the boring domestic life Earthlings lead. In The Time of the Doctor, he blunders in completely naked to Clara's family, and it's very obvious he'd rather be somewhere else, but instead of asserting superiority or just being honest, he goes along with it, making an absolute embarrassment of himself as well as the state of the show. My point here is that at least in 2005, the producers were aware of what they had to show, the adventures of time and space. No cringe or forced humour just because it was aired on a specific date in the year. The audience can witness eating shepherd's pie or Christmas dinner with all its embarrassments in their own time. The Doctor knows he could eat shepherd's pie with her at any time he likes. They have a time machine, and he needs to show Rose that by bringing her on more exciting adventures. The Doctor then makes a jape about religion.
You're happy to believe in something that's invisible, but if it's staring you in the face, nope, can't see it. There's a scientific explanation for that. You're thick.
And Rose convinces Jackie what the Doctor did just a few minutes ago about time travel, in which the episode concludes with Jackie walking home after waiting 10 seconds, showing that she still doesn't understand the point of the time machine. Will she ever understand? Who knows? So, did it suck? Despite I know this is one of the least favourite episodes of the revival amongst the masses, I rather enjoy them. Despite the massively convenient resolution of the final episode, I think that the music, comedy, and outright mockery of the political system makes these two episodes one of the most memorable stories of the revival, be it for the better or worse. I give Aliens of London a 9 out of 10, and World War III a 7.5 out of 10. I mean, Harriet and Rose could have just legged it when the office boy becomes the new replicant curtains. Not replicant, this is not Blade Runner. Like a smug child who has been out... that's not very well written. It's only when you start looking closer, however, that it becomes apparent they are shots like this. I don't need to really say that. Fuckaroo. Even if it is very brief within the Doctor's delivery of his dialogue, and my delivery of my dad is not very good either. This can also be seen when the three Slitheen's, when they suddenly realise the phone probably won't. He goes along with it, making an app. In The Time of the Doctor, he blunds in rememberable. I don't think that's a word, and convinces